This is the January 13th, 2022 meeting of the Highland NAC. We are an organization elected from the neighborhoods to give input to the city. And I am your chair, Adam Gretzinger, one of 4 board members. And let's have the board members briefly introduce themselves, starting with Konnette, Reggie, and then Juanita.
This is Konnette. I'm the recorder and have been on the board for, I don't know now, 20 years maybe.
Hey everyone, this is Reggie Frumkin. I'm the vice chair and I've been on the board for around 6.5 years.
Oh.
I'm Juanita Caporanis, and I'm a board member, and I've lived in the Highland neighborhood for over 50 years.
All right. We have the agenda on the screen share there. Our first item of business is the code services presentation, and we weren't sure who's presenting that. Maybe that's Drew. Or maybe Drew's a guest. I don't know. I can also stop sharing. Okay. This is something that Miles asked me for agenda time on.
I can quickly reach out and see.
Okay.
Are you a code compliance officer with the city?
He may be a guest or having audio trouble.
I don't know if he can hear us. Can you hear us, Drew?
Let's roll to the police and we can come back. So we have our police officer's name is wrong in the meeting agenda. Officer McCullough is with us. Officer McCullough, would you like the floor?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me fine?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, it'll get changed eventually. Let me see if I can share my screen to get the stats up. All right. So as you can see, our stats for last month, so December 2021, we had assault offenses. There was 2. Aggravated assault was 1. Intimidation was 1. Then moving down, counterfeits, forgery was 1. Larceny and theft offenses was 6. Stolen property offenses, fence was 1. Weapons law violation was 1. Total of 11 in Group A. And then you go to Group B, we had disorderly conduct was 3. Driving under the influence was 2. And then all other offenses was 11, totaling 16. That's 27 in both Group A and B for December, which is actually down from 24. And the total for 2021 was 260, which is up from last year, which was 142. And then moving on to somebody had a, let me share my other screen here. I don't know if can you see the stats for the DUI?
No, we can't.
Okay.
I think you have one window shared.
Okay.
Maybe you need to stop sharing that one, share the other window.
Yep. So somebody asked about DUI stats for this year compared to last year's. And as you can see, in the stats here. So last year in 2020, there was 354 DUIs. It's actually up quite a bit to 566 DUIs this year. Somebody want to know? I don't know if it's COVID impact. Somebody, I believe, mentioned that it could be. An easier chart you can see here where it breaks down the stats month per month. The highest being in July, which was 75. And then one other stat that we have is the narcotics, which I thought was pretty interesting. So we do DUIs not just for alcohol, but for also anything like narcotics. So for substance, we actually had 84, which is very high compared to the last 2 years being 57 and 49. So that can contribute to the rise in fentanyl. Could be changes in legislation for different drug laws. So there's a lot of things that could be impacting it. So, but that's some things to note for DUIs. So they're on the rise right now. So my thing would be careful when driving. And then if you see somebody erratically driving, don't hesitate to call it in. We'd be happy to stop them. And if it's nothing, it's nothing. Could be even a medical emergency, such as like if somebody has like a diabetic emergency, it can come off as a DUI as well. So, and then that we could save someone's life that way as well. But and then somebody in the last meeting asked about what happened on Menlo and Allen. And I went and looked into it. It was a hit and run that actually occurred on November 25th. And it was that brick wall that if you guys drive down Allen, somebody hit the brick wall. We were able to contact the individual that caused the damage and take the appropriate action. So that was the situation that occurred on the 11th or on the 25th of November. And I believe that's all I got.
Thanks
On
for
these-
following up on that event.
On these statistics of DUIs for controlled substances and alcohol,
Yep.
does the department look at lagging indicators on successful convictions and action based on the quality of the apprehension? And the evidence?
So based on my like working with the court, since I work with them quite frequently, being a community service officer, a lot of first time DUI offenses usually opt for which would be our diversion, which is where a first time DUI offense, they can do a year-long treatment and do a lot of other different things, such as an ADIS evaluation, victims impacts panel. So it's a lot of different steps and they can get it removed from the record. So as a default, so most people for first time offenses, that second one, it just depends on the quality. We do have officers that are trained, they're called DREs, which is drug recognition experts. So they take a comprehensive additional course and get additional certification just to identify individuals that are under the influence of different drugs, such as narcotics and methamphetamines. So then, or if it's THC. So if we identify that they're impaired, but it's not alcohol, then we have a lot of different officers that are trained in DRE. And then we also have cooperative with other cities and jurisdictions such as county or even Tiger. If we request a DRE and they're on scene, they will actually come and assist us in that. Or we can vice versa, we can assist other agencies as well. So we're usually pretty good about it. We use, DUIs, it's pretty much, we have our individual traffic teams that are the DUI guys that will, there's individual officers that we have that will actually take over the investigation if another officer pulls traffic and then assumes that they're just gets that feeling that this is going down the route of being a DUI, then sometimes they'll take over because they're so well trained in it that they're going to be the ones that are going to take over the investigation, make sure it's done properly. Any other questions? All right, I believe that's all I got then.
But thank you for joining us. And
Yep.
if you don't want to stay for the rest of the meeting, that's perfectly fine with us. So. All right. Did we work out the code services guest, if they're here or not, or if we should just refer that to another time? Elena, were you able to figure anything out?
I couldn't contact Miles, but I do think it's supposed to be Drew.
Okay. Drew, do you have working audio? Yeah, maybe it's technical difficulties. Okay. We'll give him a little more time, and let's move to Juan with the Park District. Juan is new to us. We got assigned a new representative, and I just want to give Juan a chance to introduce himself first, and welcome to our neighborhood virtually. And you have the floor, Juan, if you'd like to introduce yourself and then tell us what's going on with the Park District.
Absolutely. Thank you, Adam. And just Liana, who was with you guys, I've assumed for a number of months. She gave me a quick little update on like what you guys are talking about here a lot. And she did want me to make sure she said hi and how much she really enjoyed being here for a while with you all. As far as for myself, I've been with the Park District going on 8.5, almost 9 years. I used to be in the sports department as a program coordinator. So worked on summer camps and all sports leagues, all kinds of stuff. Now I've moved over to the financial aid specialist role. So I help individuals who have financial needs be able to get access to Park District programs and use of our facilities and stuff like that. Happy to go into that with you all at another date or anytime you're interested in finding out more about it. I would be happy to talk to you about our financial aid program and how it could help community members in your area. Yeah, that's just a little bit about my background. I'm going to give you guys an update from THPRD first, and then I'll just open it up for questions about my background or financial aid or any of the things that I have for you. So the first thing I wanted to share was the Museo Abulate, or the Walking Museum that's coming up. It's a partnership with Five Oaks, where THPRD is hosting a walking museum from mid-January to July. It's an interactive exhibit highlighting Latinx youth activism throughout the 2016 student walkout. Also want to give you guys an update on winter trail conditions. So THPRD staff is continuing to monitor and respond to hazardous trees and natural areas and in trail corridors. So if you see a tree that has hanging limbs or looks unsafe, please fill out an email to us form that's on the website, or you can call to report it to us and we would respond accordingly. But really otherwise, outside of that, with the pandemic picking up and then with winter weather, there aren't a lot of events going on right now. So I think those are really the only updates that I have for the good of the group. And happy to take any questions that you may have.
Well, I think maybe Reggie should introduce his project. He's got the Schiffler tree planting project, joint project with another NAC. And Reggie is one of the organizers of a number of tree plantings on and off THPRD property. Reggie, would you like to just pull that agenda item forward?
Sure, yeah, if it's all right with everyone. So Highland first did we did a tree planting with THPRD at Channing Heights Park off of Valley Avenue in February 2018. So we go back with the Park District a couple of years now, but we're now working with them again to, and also with Central Beaverton NAC to plant new trees at Schiffler Park. So this is the east end. We worked with the Park District to create a plan and an event. So on Saturday, February 19th, at about 5 or 6 weeks from now, there's going to be a volunteer event from 10 to 12:30 p.m. At the east end of Schiffler Park. I'm gonna post the link in the chat for everyone to sign up, but if folks are tuning in and they're not able to see the chat, you can sign up to volunteer to plant trees at thprd.info/partner sponsored projects, all one word there. We're pretty close to making this happen. I'm going to order the trees soon. Our liaison with Central Beaverton NAC, Rachel Phillip, who is the lead of their sustainability subcommittee, has been really instrumental in making this happen, along with all of the support that she has received from the Central Beaverton NAC board and overall neighborhood. So we still need some help getting the event ready. We just received about 100 or so flyers that Amanda Clark with the Central Beaverton NAC designed with the help of THPRD. So we need folks to distribute flyers to local businesses or your neighbors, or a school, a community gathering space, really trying to attract volunteers from the surrounding neighborhood. So if you'd like to help distribute flyers, give me an email, highlandnactrees@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to drop any number of flyers off with you. Yeah, it's going to be an exciting event, 14 new trees. Hoping that this will be the first of a number of planting events with the Park District. So, as the Park District has to remove hazardous trees along trails or in parks, we as a community have really noticed that they don't always get replanted, or the trees that are replanted are not substantial, and that they're not going to ever return the same benefits of the trees that were cut down. So we're really excited about this event, and we really want to urge THPRD to be more proactive with tree planting around parks all around the district, with planting large, maturing, native, and shade-providing trees. So this will be a really exciting opportunity to show how that can be successful, and we're involving community members. I'm going to be following up with folks from some of the local schools who have offered to come out and volunteer as a group. So I believe we still have Beaverton High School Mecha, who's going to come out. We might have a couple of other groups. So it's going to be really exciting. And this is a really nice collaboration between multiple neighborhoods and the Park District to make something amazing happen. And Konnette, I see your hands up.
Sorry. I was just going to say that the Tualatin Park event is on February 5th from 9 to 11:30, also a THPRD collaborative project. This will be the final final phase of this Tualatin Park habitat restoration project. We'll be removing some Lowmore ivy and planting a bush and shrub that is beneficial to ground nesting birds, and are looking forward to some more volunteers from Southridge, the Sustainability Club. Hannah is our THPRD coordinator, and love to see you there. Same link at THPRD to sign up for this project as well.
Cool. Yeah, I'm really excited for that too. And you can sign up to volunteer using the same link that I mentioned earlier or posted earlier. And there's even more. On February 12th, if I recall correctly, there is a planting event at Fir Grove Park. This is outside of what the NAC has organized. This is just THPRD doing it on its own. But as a park adoption volunteer at Fir Grove Park, I can say that is definitely an event worth going to as well. So we have a lot of choices this month.
And just one thing for Juan. Last year, Elena may have told you that we requested the renaming of a park to properly honor the native people that inhabited this area. And the board did acknowledge our letter and efforts. And that might be something that we'd like to hear an update at some point on, is it Fir Grove East is the current boilerplate name? Is that right, Reggie?
Yeah, I
Um,
also believe we sent this out February 2021. So it's almost been a year.
So it might be something to ask Elena about, or ask the general manager what's going on with that. And we would love to hear an update on that the next time we see you.
Absolutely. I'll check in with Liana about it. She let me know that it was something you guys had done, but didn't really have an update for me at this time, but I'll do some digging and have something for you next time.
Okay. Yeah, board member Kroger is the one that got back to me. So if you talk to her, she may have the info, or the general manager of the park district.
Absolutely.
Any other questions for Juan before we move on? I see Reggie has his hand up.
Oh, it's not a question for Juan, but I just have an update regarding the general meeting. So if anyone else has a question for Juan, please go ahead and ask.
Reggie, is this related to the park district in some way, which you want to bring up?
Oh, it's not. So yeah, we got Drew back with us and he's ready to go anytime.
Okay. That said, Juan, I think we have nothing else for you. You're welcome to stay with us, but no hard feelings if you want to go enjoy your evening and do something else rather than hang out with us on Zoom for another hour.
Or do both.
And
Sounds fun, but thank you for the time, Adam, and everyone else. Have a great night.
welcome and thank you for coming. All right. Drew, do we have your audio working now? Can you try to unmute and
Yeah, thanks, Adam. I've switched to a different device. So can you all hear me now?
yes, we do have you.
Okay, excellent. My name is Drew. I'm a code compliance officer assigned to Highland. It's one of my 4 NACs. And it's definitely one of the busiest. Before I start, does anyone have any questions about code compliance?
We probably have too many questions, and you may want to structure it and maybe give a disclaimer about anything you can't tell us before we get into specifics. It would be good if people didn't ask about specific residences or specific cases. But could you go ahead
Sure.
and tell us about why it's so busy and in general sense?
Well, Highland is a pretty dense NAC. We have a lot of trees. We have a lot of sidewalks for pedestrians, and just a lot of great people that really, for the most part, really take care of their properties and their business and their belongings and whatnot. You mentioned disclaimers. I guess one disclaimer I could make is that as a policy, we don't reveal the identity of a complainant unless it goes to court and it is a matter of public record. If you get a letter from us, which is one of our 2 ways to contact someone, we don't disclose who complained. That's good for the complainant and not always good for the recipient of the letter. But it is to protect neighborhood integrity and make everybody happy and kind of foster friendships instead of retaliation, which does happen. With that said, does anybody have any questions about the process of making a complaint?
Konnette, were you trying to talk?
Well, is it generally between residents, or would it also include things on sidewalks and streets? Like
Yeah.
lamp posts that are out or something like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. That falls under the umbrella of what we do. If you see a lamppost that's burned out, we are the ones to call. If you see, an ADA ramp on a sidewalk that's damaged and you think it's hazardous, we are the ones to call. Any hazard you see in the city that you're concerned about, we are the ones to call. We may not be the ones to take action on that, but we have a pretty good network of people in the city that we can refer that to, and they're very quick about responding. I would say the top 5 calls we get on an average year-round basis. Winter is a little slower, summer is a little busier. One would be sidewalks. The other one would be the height of grass, weeds, and trees needing to be kept back and trimmed. Discarded vehicles, and I'll tell you a little bit about those. That is a vehicle that is not registered to drive on the public streets and is not operable. A lot of people still want to keep those as project vehicles, and that's fine. But as per city code, that does need to be stored in a fully enclosed structure like a shop or a garage. When it's sitting on the lawn or on the landscaping, that is cause for complaint. We do get those fairly regularly. Another one that we get quite often during the winter is rats. And that's become worse with COVID and the labor shortage with the apartment complexes. They're not emptying their trash as often as they used to. And that is causing an uptick in calls about rats. What the city can do about that is, in certain cases, we can send our operations folks out there and they can bait the sewer manholes. That is sometimes a source of rats. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but we are willing to give it a try. It doesn't always fix it. So we kind of try to tell people, keep a lid on the garbage can. Don't leave wood piles outside. They love to habitat in wood piles. Old vehicles, they love to live in vehicles. So there is things that homeowners can do to avoid that infestation too. Is anyone familiar with the sidewalk repair grant program?
We've covered it somewhere around 2 years ago in a in-person meeting with someone. Maybe you could give us the short version of it. I do know we have a number of issues in the neighborhood with popped sidewalks.
Sure. Yeah, what the city did was the city council allocated a certain amount of money every year to deal with sidewalk repairs for residences. It does not apply to businesses. Whenever your sidewalk is uplifted by a city street tree, that is one between the sidewalk and the street and that little planter strip, the city will put up to $1,500 towards a repair or half of the lowest bid. You do have to get 3 bids from contractors to use that program, and we will put money towards the lesser of the 3. So it is very popular, very well used. Last year we used up the funds. This year we're projected to use up the funds as well. It's a first come, first serve basis. There's no other criteria other than to have a residence in Beaverton that's affected.
Do you respond to topped trees?
Topped trees, sure. We do get, I would say, 1 to 2 calls a month about topped trees. And if you're not familiar with that, it's an improper way of trimming your trees. It's basically cutting a straight line, a horizontal line across the top of your tree to get it to quit growing, and that will kill the tree. It is not permitted in Beaverton. It's not a sustainable way of trimming trees.
Thank you for touching on that. This, I guess, is more of a nuanced issue relating to tree topping, but you know, not necessarily in Highland, but around, I've seen young street trees that are like, they're essentially topped, but because the trees are so small to begin with, they don't really like, register as being topped, but basically the homeowner is preventing the tree from growing more than like a few feet above the ground, even though the tree is naturally maturing or trying to mature at like, you know, 25 feet or so. So I guess my question is, like, to what extent of pruning do you consider a tree to be topped?
To what extent would we consider it topped?
There's a term like, you know, a lesser form of tree topping is tipping, where you just kind of just cut the terminal branches where the tree is supposed to grow from so that it is just stunted. That's kind of what I'm trying to describe here. So it's
Okay.
not like indiscriminate pruning, but it's just like preventing the, you know, cutting off the terminal branches so that the tree just can't grow.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah, and I'll be perfectly honest with you. Whenever we get this call, we will go out and look at it. But for a professional opinion, we do consult the city arborist, and he gives his guidance on that. Usually when a tree's been topped, we ask that it be replaced by the person responsible.
okay. Thank you.
Does your department handle when people nail, staple, or strangle a street tree as a code violation, or is that like a vandalism activity? How is that handled?
That is a code violation, and we do get them occasionally. Yeah, you cannot affix anything to a city street tree.
What's the
Um,
fine for that if someone was to go to that?
I would have to look that up. I bet it's a Class C violation, and it would have to be deemed that by the judge, and that would be $100 if it were indeed a Class C violation.
Okay. Plus, they might have to pay to replace it if they were convicted or whatever.
Yeah,
a
if
civil-
if the city asked for that penalty, and we can. We have not brought before a judge anything to do with trees yet. We do catch people occasionally nailing signs, garage sale signs and whatnot to trees. We have folks, believe it or not, chaining trailers to trees from time to time that they don't want stolen. And that is not permitted either. We put a stop to that when we see it.
And back on the rat thing, do you mean rats and mice, or do you really mean large rats? Like, what kind of wildlife do you really mean there?
I mean rats in the very literal sense of the word. It's rats. The hardest hit are apartment complexes. You get a lot of folks in there that don't always follow the trash procedures. Combine that with lower pickup rates of trash, and a lot of these apartment complexes have what are called porters that just walk the premises and deal with trash, and they're having a hard time getting people to find them to work. We talk to them weekly, sometimes every 2 weeks, if we don't hear anything from the community. But that's a big source of it is apartment complexes. We also have raccoons. I talked to a homeowner last week who had a coyote in his yard. He does live up to a green space, so that kind of explains that. But no, that's the kind of wildlife we deal with in Beaverton.
Any other questions for Drew here? All right. It looks like we don't have any questions for you, and I see you're holding your phone, so that can't be too pleasant for long periods of time. thank you for
It's all good.
coming to speak with us and keeping on top of these code issues.
Oh,
You're welcome.
Oh,
one
Konnette,
more.
go ahead.
Yeah.
So, do you make regular rounds of the neighborhoods in search of problems, or do you mainly get recommend online
Mhm.
reports?
It's a combination of both. When we do drive through the neighborhoods, we're looking for hazards mostly. Because of the rat problem, we do look for sources of rats or things that could become rat problems. Like I was saying, cars being lived in or wood piles, we'll ask people to deal with those. Hazards we would look for would be sidewalks that are so uplifted that could cause a pedestrian injury.
And street holes in the street and that sort of thing, is that your jurisdiction?
It falls under that same umbrella of we can get
Of
the right folks
you know
on
who
that
to
job.
call. Okay.
Yeah, we can get the right folks on the job. They're in our speed dial.
All right.
Yeah,
And
we're very well networked.
The lights, I think we would have to report unless you guys make rounds at night for the.
That is very true. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we
And-
work from 7 to 3:30 Monday through Friday.
Okay.
Yeah. And I will put my contact information in the chat function. And if anybody has any questions, they can reach out to me directly.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the time and look forward to talking to you guys in the future.
And thank you for figuring out those audio problems and still joining us. So
Absolutely.
have a good evening.
Have a great night, folks.
All right, let's resume our meeting here, and we are at BCCI update. And Konnette, would you like to display anything? And I just have one question. I think we have a pending reimbursement for the tree planting, and we have not yet received the check. And maybe if you heard anything, you could give that update too.
A tree planting?
Yeah, the fall tree planting, we didn't get a reimbursement yet from the city.
I thought
the
I got a
matching grant.
$29.
Oh, that was from me, from the
Yeah.
Highland account for your receipt.
Oh, yeah.
But our we haven't got our matching grant, and I believe BCCI would process that. The application.
Okay. And let me talk to Miles about that, because I thought that was part of the original grant. So I'll talk to Miles about.
I know Reggie turned it in, but we just didn't get the check back. So for us to turn those funds around and do something else, we didn't have very much money left.
Oh, you're
Hi.
not talking about Taliesin Park.
No, I'm talking about the large tree planting event. Was it November?
Yeah, it was November. Is right. So
Yeah.
yes.
Reggie doesn't,
Reggie did.
Reggie turned it in. I mean, but it's up to, I guess Miles would send the check to me and I'd put it in the account, and nothing's shown up yet.
Okay.
But BCCI would approve it.
Yes. No, they didn't mention anything at the December 13th meeting about grant activity, but I can go through all of it. We had this meeting in the at the food courts. This was our end of the year meeting, kind of a celebratory, as well as wrapping up all our housekeeping kind of a thing. We did have one presentation. It was the visioning presentation. I think I've talked about visioning committee before. They have now hired a consultant to help them with their outreach process. And he was at the meeting and gave a interesting presentation on their thoughts about the outreach. I think we were part of the outreach. They plan to do a multifaceted outreach. So it would include residents, it would include things like our committee, it would include businesses, it would include cultural groups and that sort of thing. So it was an interesting discussion. They recapped some of the projects from the past year, which included 2 voter forums, our traffic calming work group, and such, and then also gave a Allison Tipion was there to provide the council update. We did hold elections, and the chair is now Bento Kimo Kai, and with the vice president being Ellen Russell, who was last year's chair. So she's the vice chair now. The other positions were the incumbents continued, and that would be Eric Lair as the treasurer, and Jonathan is the, I didn't write Jonathan's last name down, but I'll put it in the minutes. Jonathan is the recorder. And they discussed 2 projects that they are hoping to see unfold in 2022. That would be the volunteer event in April and the collaborative event that we've discussed at this meeting about tree planting, emergency support, and parks passport programs that our neighborhoods would do. In talking with them at that, it seemed that the idea was to create some kind of a template, not necessarily that our neighborhoods take the lead on these projects for the other neighborhoods, but that they create a template that would help any neighborhood that would like to host one of these events be able to do that effectively. So let's see. I think that's kind of what I had. It was as I said, there wasn't any grant activity announced at that meeting. And they also talked about the neighborhood program being moved to a different category. Do you know about that, Adam? I'm sorry, I didn't write more about that down. It was very quick.
I do not know about that.
I
I'll,
think it's,
yes,
sorry, I think it's just that we moved to under the city manager. instead of
that's
the
it.
mayor.
That's it. Thank you, Elena. So the program will now be reporting to the city manager rather than council. That's what I have.
All right.
Okay.
30 questions for Konnette.
Oh yeah. Do you know of like other matching grants that are going on concurrently?
You know, there were ones that have been, I don't know of any active ones. There was the one about the theater presentations, making use of the library site. That was the last one that that there was a report on that I remember. Well, Reggie, do you have a question? Do you want me to bring up?
Oh no, I was just curious what other NACs are up to around this time.
Yeah, that's a good point, because the neighborhood are losing people that have been on. We had a number of people that have retired from the committee, been on it a long time, been very active in their NACs. And like Jim Percy.
Jim's retired.
Yeah, Jim's wanting to retire. Joe Wallacky's wanting to retire. the person that does the voters forums is wanting to retire. So it had kind of a sense of people winding things down. So we may be as all of us may be needing some rebuilding kinds of activities for 2022.
Yeah, I know it's super exhausting to just still be like doing digital stuff. So I get that. I'm really hopeful that we can move to in-person meetings sooner than later and really start to push on a new wave of recruitment citywide for the neighborhoods. You know, I really miss the in-person meetings. There was just that in-person quality, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I was glad to hear about that Five Oaks project, the museum project, because they've been wanting to ramp up more than they have in the last few years. So that sounds very exciting for them.
All right, should we keep it moving? Meeting minutes. We have meeting minutes that Konnette prepared. Is there a motion to approve them or any corrections?
I move that we approve the minutes.
Is there a second on the motion?
I'll second that motion.
Further discussion? Hearing none, board members, please vote in the affirmative, and if you wish to vote no, we'll do that after. Approval of minutes, please say aye or raise a hand.
Aye.
That's a unanimous
Aye.
approval, so we don't need to take the noes. Okay, Reggie, tree committee update. We're only 2 minutes behind schedule. You have 45 minutes. Please don't take that long.
I'll do my best not to. I'm just kidding. I'll be pretty brief. So I already went over the Schiffler Park planting. Again, that's February 19th, 10 to 12:30. Register on THPRD's website. So the next major development is I'm looking at what we should do for our next planting event and seeing how we went over budget by a few $100s this year, which is okay, but it's not sustainable. We got a lot of trees planted. We had a successful project, but I think it's time that we are looking for new sources of funding that have a higher award ceiling. So the city's matching grant has been wonderful, and I'm really grateful that we have that. I think for our tree planting efforts, we've, to be honest, we've outgrown the scope of what the city matching grant is trying to do. So unless that is raised, which there's no indication in the short term, I've been exploring other options, and I want to give credit to Konnette and Brita Pahunas with the Tualatin Soil and Water Conservation District. Konnette brought her there during the natural gardening and landscaping workshop series that she organized. So that actually exposed some resources to me, including this TWIG grant. So this is a Tualatin Watershed Improvement Grant. And I'm going to post the link in the chat. You can read about this grant at tualatinswcd.org. So in a nutshell, the grant awards up to $5,000 instead of $3,000, which is what the city neighborhood matching grant does. They accept applications year-round on a rolling basis. So the next time to submit an application would be by April 15th, and usually takes about 6 weeks or so to get it processed. So, even though our next planting event might not be until November of 2022, you know, the one that, not talking about extra collaboratory events like what we're doing with Central Beaverton this February, but I think for our annual event, we really need to start planning now if we're to take advantage of more funding. So I'll talk a little bit more about the TWIG, but I also wanted to start a discussion. You know, is this something that we should pursue as a NAC, and talk about some of the details and conditions of funding. So first of all, the cost of trees has risen about 10% over the last year. And this was just from averaging our data between this year's and last year's planting, about as far as how much money we've actually spent on trees. So we're quickly outgrowing the matching grant with the city. And then there are other things that we could provide with more robust funding, like more refreshments, more supplies to support the maintenance and establishment of the trees, like wooden stakes, that sort of thing. And then also one thing we did this year was through an in-kind donation, we were able to provide a stipend for crew leaders. So I recruited folks who happened to volunteer for Friends of Trees, a local nonprofit. So we didn't have to train anyone this year. They already came with a lot of experience, and our 3 crew leaders did a wonderful job, and it was a really fun thing for them. And I think it's really important that we try to provide more paid opportunities just in general as a society for, you know, green jobs. So there's kind of an equity component too, where we're able to kind of get more people from the greater community and give them these paid opportunities to really develop their leadership skills. So that was awesome. And I'd love to find people from Highland, and we've had folks in the past, you know, volunteer crew lead for free, of course, just as volunteers. But unfortunately, due to circumstances beyond everyone's control, folks, you know, either are undergoing surgery, have experienced an injury, or are just swamped with their job or family. So those are all understandable. So I'd love to, if my capacity allows, as the tree subcommittee lead, recruit more folks from the neighborhood to really train up as volunteer crew leaders. But until then, I think this stipend model was really successful. So kind of scaling that up to do 4 crew leaders instead of 3, you know, that adds $400 to the budget essentially. So the TWIG grant is a reimbursement model. So as a NAC, we would have to pay for everything first, and then they would reimburse us for all the expenses. So that presents a little bit of a dilemma for us. We have maybe roughly like $4,000, $4,500 in our account. So I don't feel comfortable requesting a budget of that much money, right? If it's as much as $5,000, like we don't even have that much money in our account. So I'm not ready to make a motion to have the NAC consider supporting the pursuit of this TWIG grant for $5,000 or about that much, because I need to figure out how this would work with our treasury, and if the Soil and Water Conservation District would be willing to reimburse expenses that were not actually paid for by the NAC, but rather covered by a NAC member. So like if, you know, if one of us needed to just write a check to pay for some trees, would we be able to get that reimbursement back directly to the individual who wrote that check as opposed to the NAC? So I just want to make sure that that would be okay. I've already spoken over the phone to the point of contact with the district for the grant. So she already talked about kind of what we would be doing, just kind of getting a consultation. So she supports our idea of tree planting and thinks that this would be an appropriate project for this grant. But I do want to go back to her with this question about the funding and how, and who exactly they would be able to reimburse through this, and if there are any technicalities. So expect something next month. I would like to aim for the April 15th deadline so that we can have an answer by June, and then start doing outreach and planning for that. One area that I'm thinking is Wilson Park. It's a rather large subdivision, going from like Barlow Court all the way to Allen, and then from Murray East all the way to like Peach Lane. So we've already done a portion of Wilson Park, and that was November 2020, but I want to finish the whole area out. And there is a strong equity focus here because there are a lot of apartments and duplexes and people who are maybe renters and are more likely to be disenfranchised from tree planting, not being able to be empowered to make the decision to have trees, or the owners are cutting down trees because they view the trees as getting in the way of their profit. So hopefully we can create an attractive offer for multifamily properties, plant trees close to Murray and Allen to help offset some of the effects of those roads, like the noise, the air pollution, and then help create more beautiful corridors. And then also just focusing on like major pedestrian routes, like really trying to get trees along 22nd Street to help calm traffic and shade the sidewalk, and get more trees in the vicinity of Fir Grove School, where more folks walking to and from the school are likely to experience those benefits of trees more up close. So at this point on the topic of the TWIG, I just want to open up to an informal discussion. What do you all think? Should we pursue a larger grant, or should we just try to stay within what we've been doing and kind of reduce our output of trees a little bit, just so we can fit more cleanly within the existing grant that we're utilizing?
Reggie, I think this is a great idea, and especially with material costs going up. I did notice there are some restrictions that are in the TWIG grant literature that are not restrictions with the city's matching grant. I think it was something about refreshments or a no-go, but that's minor. I wouldn't worry too much about the working capital of the NAC if we time it right with a credit card purchase and make it understood that it's not some sort of fraud, that the NAC didn't really pay for it, that it's a reimbursed transaction with a volunteer. Presumably they've had this situation before, but I don't think you should worry about reducing the amount of money you want to spend just because of our account balance.
Okay.
We should be able to make that work, and it's possible that it looks like the grant itself is a contract, the way the document reads. So I think we can handle it, and I think we could approach the maximum value fairly easily.
All right, thank you for your feedback. To address your point about the refreshments, I'll have to double check with that. But from my understanding of reading the more detailed document on the TWIG, I think the refreshment budget just has to be approved in the initial application, and then it will be considered a project expense. But I will I will double check that.
Yeah, they wrote it in there like they want to discourage it.
Oh yeah, I can see
So
why.
it might be good if we played to the letter of that.
Yeah, I think, yeah, a modest budget for refreshments regardless would be something that we pursue. I can see how like way too much money would be spent on refreshments if it's like a really large group of people, for example, like a school.
And Reggie, on this, it's my understanding you have a spreadsheet of sort of tree backlog of willing hosters of trees. Is that something that we would need to build up in the area you wish to do the planting in, or do you already have willing property owners to host new trees in those
Well,
locations?
in this area, I actually am not aware of anybody at this time who is, you know, on some sort of wait list, so to speak, for our services. But what we've done with the last few plantings is go out in late summer and leave a tree offer letter at each door. So that's usually the first point where people learn about this project and that they're eligible to get free trees planted. So with aiming for hearing back from the district by June, I would want to hit the ground running with getting those tree offer letters distributed so that we can give people as long of a time as they need to decide and then sign up. And then also this previous November, I realized that the deadline to sign up to order trees was a little too close to the planting date, because sometimes there's a delay of 1 or 2 weeks with the nurseries when we put out our request for a quote. So just to not have to have anyone rush, especially the nurseries, or have to schedule something at the last minute, like a delivery, if we can get the letters out by June and then early mid-July, and then have the sign-up deadline in September instead of October, I think that would be ideal. So we would have a 3-month window for folks to sign up. Does anyone else have any comments or questions? Yes.
I agree with Adam on this. We would certainly like to try to manage our accounts so that we could take advantage of this opportunity. I'm wondering if there are thoughts about what the funds could do for our neighborhood outside of planting and the things that we have done in the past. And I'm thinking about things that help mitigate against the climate change. And if we have another hot summer like we did before. And I'm thinking about how when we plant new trees, we always struggle with watering them. And I'm wondering if you have any thoughts about what could be part of a project that would assist us with making sure that we can water vulnerable trees. It's just a thought. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's a valid concern. With our model, we have the homeowners water the trees, and we give them very detailed instructions, how much to water and how frequently, and starting when and when to stop. And I've also been in the habit of emailing the homeowners for the last 2 years worth of plantings twice in the growing season. So like once in May, once in late July, just as reminders to water. And then if anyone, I also offer, like if anyone has to leave town for a week and it's like in the middle of summer, they can always reach out to us, and myself or anyone else that I might try to recruit can help water those trees while they're gone. No one has asked this yet, but it is an option. and now to also address your point, in the city of Vancouver, there's a Watershed steward nonprofit that administers grants that are similar to this, and a lot of neighborhood associations choose to apply for these grants. And then so I guess to kind of go into the weeds a little bit, but not too much, in Vancouver, Friends of Trees has an annual neighborhood planting for every neighborhood. So neighborhood associations recognize this, and in conjunction with this event, they will apply for these watershed stewardship grants in that kind of focus on trees. So in addition to bringing down the cost of the trees from like $35 to $10, which is what the homeowner pays, they also provide watering bags. So I guess that's what I'm getting at. We could look at the cost of providing a watering bag, which makes it a little bit easier for homeowners to water. You just fill up the bag and then it slowly trickles out, deeply watering the tree's roots while providing cover for the soil. So it's kind of like a mulch in a sense, where it keeps the soil cooler and shaded and helps conserve moisture. So we can look at that. I've seen a few folks, especially with the 2020 Wilson Park planting, decide to put on watering bags. They're the folks whose trees were in the first year when we had the heat dome. So a lot of people just took it into their own hands to respond in that way. Do you think watering bags would help what you're talking about?
I do. I mean, I remember some of the cut throughs that we planted trees on. They weren't always near a curb, or it wasn't always easy to get water to wherever the tree was planted. Also, the way you describe it, it sounds like if somebody could do something they didn't have to remember to do over a period of time, that might also be an advantage. That sounds like a great idea.
In other cities, if we had Friends of Trees in our neighborhood in their full model, folks would be able to order their trees and then also have the option of ordering a 2-year watering contract. So they pay like a couple $100s for each tree, and Friends of Trees will water the tree as much as it needs in the summer, or like for the first 2 or 3 summers. We're not there yet. I hope we can be as a city and neighborhood soon with that model. But in the future, there is the potential for us to, if this model is expanded successfully into our neighborhood, we could apply for a grant to get all of our trees watered, or like a number of trees, and then people wouldn't even have to worry about it. So that's another option, but
Reggie,
I don't think we have a lot of capacity for that.
Reggie,
Yeah.
how much does a water bag cost? How long does it distribute water? And would wood chips from like a Splundish or an arborist, would that be a more natural alternative to maintain soil moisture?
Yeah, wood chips are a more natural alternative, and they're free in most cases. So in our next planting iteration, the plan is to not rely on the city for mulching, but just to incorporate into our grant, renting a truck and then picking up 1 or 2 cubic yards of some sort of mulch, whether it's free mulch from the city or park district, or maybe something a little bit nicer like bark nuggets from a wood company nearby. We would still be mulching every single tree. So it is more natural, and there's less of a risk.
It isn't a slow release system. It's just prevents moisture loss, not really provide additional moisture.
It does provide moisture. So I think they're like 10 or 15 gallon bags, and you fill them up and then they release the water very slowly over the next several hours. And then my figures are probably outdated by now, but from last I checked, the watering bags were around $20 each. So those could definitely add up in a grant, but we can still look at how feasible that would be.
And is it possible if we had a fleet of them, we would move them from tree to tree over a multi-year period? Or does it become used up or ruined somehow once it's installed?
We could try to maintain a NAC supply of these, but I think it's more trouble than it's worth. I think it's kind of a nice deal. It sweetens the pot if the homeowners get to keep them. Also, I've personally dealt with removing and reinstalling used tree watering bags when I was an AmeriCorps volunteer. They are pretty nasty after they've been on the tree for a few months. You know, dogs do urinate on them. Spiders and slugs will make their homes in them. They do provide great habitat. So I would say we probably wouldn't want to deal with handling a bunch of these and storing them. And then just having to keep track of them, like, you know, somehow indicating that they belong to the NAC. Generally, though, we've had a really high survival rate. So I don't really believe that any of the trees that we planted have really died in the first year. I can't recall any. We have had a few that have died or gotten catastrophically damaged in their second year. And we did actually replace some of those this last November. But generally, I think watering with these trees is well covered because we really emphasize with the messaging to the homeowners to keep on top of it with clear instructions. And we do share the resources about watering bags because a significant number of people do show interest in them. Does anyone have any additional questions or comments? Okay, if not, I would like to actually, I think after this discussion, I feel better about proposing a motion. So I'd like to make a motion to pursue a Tualatin Watershed Improvement Grant with a budget of up to $5,000 and aim for applying or sending an application by April 15th. And included with this motion is a request for the NAC board to support a tree planting event on Sunday, November 13th, 2022 from 1 to 4:30 p.m. Focusing on the Wilson Park West area. So motion to pursue the grant of up to $5,000 to be applied for by April 15th. And then also to support a tree planting event on November 13th, 2022 from 1 to 4:30 for Wilson Park West.
Can you take a small amendment to your motion that the chair will be authorized to sign any contract documents as required by the grant?
Yeah, so I'd like to make an updated motion to apply for a TWIG grant up to $5,000, applying for it by April 15th with the aforementioned tree planting event, the date and location, with the additional clause that the NAC chair may be authorized to sign any documents on behalf of the NAC. Does that sound good? That's a mouthful.
Sounds great. Konnette will probably have to get it from the recorded meeting audio.
Yes.
Do we have a second on the motion?
I'll second it.
I am sorry, guys. I froze. If it's okay, I can go back and and check the video for verbatim for the minutes.
Reggie, can you write the motion and send it to Konnette?
Yeah, do you want me to do in the chat or like email after the meeting or what?
Well, for
Whatever.
Konnette to vote on it, why don't you just repeat it and then make sure to send the exact text to Konnette?
Yeah, no problem.
Well, I
Alright.
can get it from the video.
Well, we want you to have the info so you
Yeah,
can.
he can go ahead and tell me that, and then I can double check the video for, rather than him having to send something else.
Okay, no problem. Okay, I'll just repeat it once more. So I would like to make I move to approve the pursuit of a Tualatin Watershed Improvement Grant for up to $5,000 for a Highland NAC tree planting event scheduled for Sunday, November 13th, 2022 from 1 to 4:30 p.m., focusing on the west half of the Wilson Park subdivision, with a budget of up to $5,000 to be applied for by the April 15th deadline.
Okay, so we're planning for this to be totally from a WIG, finance totally from WIG, TWIG funds, from a TWIG grant?
Well, the Highland NAC our treasury would be paying for everything up front, and then we would get a reimbursement from Tualatin Soil and Water Conservation District.
For whatever balance we,
Yeah,
so it would be 3,000 plus, and with the TWIG grant applied to,
It's then his number is 5,000.
yeah, but I'm just trying to define which funds get applied first and which are come after.
Yeah, Highland
TWIG
funds would be applied first. We would pay for everything, and then once the project is complete and we close out the grant, that's when the district would reimburse us.
Okay.
So having already said the motion, we already had a second, and then I repeated the motion as part of our discussion. Adam, are we ready to vote?
Yeah, if
Okay.
there's no further discussion on the motion, we can vote. So in the affirmative, please raise your hand or say aye.
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 Aye. We have unanimous passage.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for your support. I really look forward to leading this and involving you all and our neighborhood in this project. So,
Reggie,
yeah,
I would like to very carefully review what you're going to submit, that it is not running afoul. I did read what you sent me, and that's it looks like it's just a little harder than the neighborhood program grant.
absolutely. I'll be happy to email the board just with the draft application. I try to make that standard procedure.
And that's probably both sides, whether if it's copacetic with the Beaverton neighborhood program as well as the soil and conservation TWIG grant program.
Yeah.
Yeah, if this goes well, I would really like us to, do a follow-up one and install some bioswales.
Yeah, we can do the tree grant in 2023. It's $100,000. I'm kidding, but maybe one day.
And then it will be all the neighborhoods involved.
Yes. Well, no, this is really exciting. And again, thank you for everyone's support in having faith that we'll be able to make this happen. So moving on, the Multi-NAC Collaboration on tree planting. I'm going to kind of just run through the rest of these pretty quickly. So just with our informal collaboration with Sexton Mountain and West Beaverton NACs, I'm kind of acting as the unofficial lead for just working to expand resident-centered tree planting opportunities for more NACs other than just Highland. So there was a lot of interest in like, okay, how can we do more planting, get more trees planted, like what Highland's doing, you know, private property, restoring tree canopy, involving neighborhood residents and youth and community members. So the answer in that I believe is to this, and that I discussed with the group, is getting Friends of Trees to expand their programming in Beaverton so that they're not just offering like 40 street trees that the city chooses in a very small area, like 4 times a year, but rather every single residence has an opportunity to choose trees and participate in an annual community-centered event that involves neighborhoods. And moreover, it would be Friends of Trees staff who are contracted to facilitate all the details of the planting project. So it allows NAC leaders to really focus on what we already do best, which is involving community outreach, getting the word out, and just supporting, you know, more behind the scenes instead of just having to reinvent the wheel of tree planting. So where we're at on that is the Beaverton lead arborist, Jared Lane, is supposedly meeting with Friends of Trees soon to discuss this expansion. So we'll hear from Jared how it goes. Doesn't really seem like there's much more we can do at this point other than wait. So the next thing is there's supposedly a March Friends of Trees giveaway. I don't know anything about this, but this is supposedly happening. I pretty much just heard murmurings of it. But if you have any questions about receiving a free tree this spring, don't hesitate to contact Urban Forestry at jlane@beavertonoregon.gov. And then for our fall 2021 planting event wrap up, we touched on this already. The event is already closed. The reimbursement request was sent to Miles December 2nd. So we're just waiting on a check from the city. Hopefully that's approved. So that's all I have for the tree update, or tree subcommittee update.
Okay, thank you, Reggie. Moving on with the agenda, we have a few items left, and I just want to make sure we're conscious of everybody's time here. On the previous topic, we had the fireworks ban and an action item for the chair to write a letter. That letter was written but never sent because maybe there's a disagreement on the policy aspects of that. And I think it's going the direction of we can't agree. And maybe this letter will not be sent under the NAC's cover. Is that?
I think that we could reach an agreement of kind, Anime. I think that it was a very well written letter. I'm sorry, I've got my my concerns would be about whether it would be a prohibitive. I'm sorry, my dog has just gotten loose, and he's got a cone that he's thrashing about that's on his head. So let me get him downstairs.
So just covering this, the draft letter was authorized if the chair and the secretary could agree on its content, it could be sent. The letter is addressed to the Beaverton City Council and to the TVFNR to work together on ordinances and controls to reduce fire risk. And it also briefly touches on climate change issues being a motivation for needing to do this. And that's kind of what the letter talks about. It also does request increased civil enforcement costs, because the $500 for a civil fine is pretty low, considering the damage from a single incident most likely exceeds that in all cases. So
Yeah,
it's
I was surprised in the code compliance presentation that they'll go through all the trouble of taking someone to court just to fine them only $100. Seems like
Yeah.
that's higher.
Some of these fines need to be $10,000, and then people think twice. But I don't know if that's a red line for Konnette, or there are a
I
few
would
aspects.
definitely support increasing the fines. I think that transporting, to me, the most dangerous of the fireworks are ones that are brought in from out of areas. They're the ones that leave the ground and could land at a tree canopy. And there are a $10,000 fine for threatening people's homes like that. I would definitely support. And that's where most of my concerns lie is currently we have the ability to ban fireworks based on environmental concerns. But last year we continued to have these large fireworks go off in the face of that, even in the face of that ban. So I would definitely support that part of the wording in the letter. But would like, I don't know, I would take like discussion around how concerned for those fireworks that are brought in from out of area that there be more vigorous enforcement of that, of finding out where, of finding people that are doing that and setting off those kinds of fireworks. Does that make sense? I mean,
Reggie has his hand up. I don't know if it was a follow-up to something you just said.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, no, I agree, Konnette. I just wanted to add too, like, in strengthening our case, the city has an opportunity here to actually act for its climate action plan. So action number 76 is prepare for increased urban wildfires near forested areas as a result of drier summers. So restricting fireworks and increasing penalties for illegal fireworks would absolutely support this action item, because we need to reduce the risk, and we shouldn't be obviously cutting down trees or forests because, oh, like a tree could catch on fire. That makes no sense at all, but rather reduce the more obvious hazards, which is the fireworks.
Yeah, and there was something that I was nuancedly trying to communicate, is that a trigger perhaps of X number of weeks of no rain, no precipitation, that a ban could be done or should be done. And that it's possible that if there was rainfall near a typical holiday like the 4th of July where fireworks are used, and there had been precipitation that was, tipping, that maybe they would be allowed. But in a wildfire-like condition, like we were under 2 years ago, I think, fireworks were just obnoxious when we already had wildfire smoke. So I had wanted to get like a tipping sort of climate change is happening worse, so fireworks are absolutely banned, or degrees of it. And that was a nuance I was trying to work in there, that maybe the fire chief or the city council could institute a ban when extreme conditions occur. And that might be, Konnette had expressed a concern about like New Year's fireworks or Chinese New Year, and those are in the wet season and not as much of an issue for fire versus Fourth of
That's
July
true.
is the height of our summer.
And thank you, Adam. That was well said. And so is it possible to have maybe not an absolute ban except in those extreme cases like we had last summer, which allowed things like sparklers and
Well,
or
I
are
mean,
you
we're
feeling-
just asking for something, and I think that people far more qualified than us at the fire district and city council, some staff in the city would probably add the nuance to this that needs to be there. But the Clark County banned them and Vancouver banned them outright last year, and that is the purchasing area for the unsafe and unwanted fireworks in Oregon.
that and Boomtown and some Clark County outlets that are north of Vancouver, which people have gone to.
Yeah, this stuff is hard, and we need to balance people's rights, the businesses, but there probably are conditions like no precipitation for however long there was no precipitation last summer, where there were burn bans and air quality issues that likely climate change is just getting worse every year. So it would be necessary. And that's where I'm coming to it. I don't just want to ban it if it rained the day before, just to be mean. I want to ban it because it creates a risk to our homes, tree canopy. In addition to just the regular annoyances of the garbage that gets left in the public right away.
And the
and ends
chemicals.
up in storm drains. Yeah.
And the noise, especially on
noise,
days that
yeah.
aren't the holidays themselves.
Yeah, the non-climate change impacts are always there no matter what. But I think the thing that's happening that we should latch on to is that our summers are harsher now. And this is the risk profile of this is way higher.
Yeah, we're pretty much living in a desert in the summer now.
So I think we can give this another try if we want. I don't think we set a time frame on the authorization to send the letter, but we should send it soon, like this month, just to follow up on Greenway NAC's letter and activism, and not being spaced too far away from them, because they have asked for a similar set of things to be done.
And have they already contacted the fire district? I know we talked about the fire district as.
I got a hold of a letter from a Greenway board member that went to the city council, and they were asking us to do a direct signature on it, and we chose not to. We chose to go our own route, write our own letter. And that's what this was about, just because we didn't have a December meeting. And then that was from November. So really we need to get this done if we're gonna hit the planning at both the fire district and the city, to have maybe something done before November, or not November, 4th of July.
Well, I'm feeling, since I'm feeling that I'd like to back away from an absolute ban of all fireworks, including of requesting that, since we already have since the city already has the ability to ban fireworks in extreme hazard during extreme hazardous conditions. Partly I need more information about that piece of it, and partly I'm not sure what the representation from the neighborhood is. We have support of the board, but I would feel that currently our attendance and that sort of thing hasn't provided us with a information from residents outside the board about their feelings about a complete ban on fireworks. And I'm feeling that there would be a good chance that if some kind of a vote was taken amongst neighborhood residents, we might not have the support we're looking for. That said, what you said, Adam, about the council forming a partnership to look into this and to make those policy changes or regulation changes based on that partnership. Relying on that is something that I think we should be able to do. And as you say, we don't know the answer to a lot of the questions. Are cherry bombs are dangerous, or what would the impact be of regulating more intensely these lesser types of fireworks while not being able to address the larger ones. Might people go outside of the city of Beaverton and then to find their small fireworks too, and then we still have a problem.
Yeah, the cooperation with the fire district was one reason to get a larger area, because the special district can also regulate this, and the Beaverton boundary issue and the maybe lack of knowledge of some of the citizens of where Beaverton actually is and isn't.
And you think they know more about where the fire district is and isn't, or is it just?
Well, it covers a larger area. Only a few municipalities in the county even have their own fire departments. So it's a good way to get a more comprehensive coverage area. We don't typically deal with the fire district has a lot of constituents, just like THPRD has a lot of constituents, but the fire district has even more constituents because it stretches so far.
I can see that there could be some benefit that Beaverton regulations would align with the fire district regulations, and so that's a good partnership from that point of view. The fire just both, I think, probably have information they can share with each other to develop and, or review these regulations.
Okay, so I think we can maybe work on the letter again and maybe redline a few things out, or clarify these tipping items, and maybe get a workable letter out. Is that possible?
I think it is. It's really a nicely written letter, Adam, and I appreciate the time you've put into it.
All right, well, thank you. And the Be Ready project, is that from you, Konnette, or is that from Reggie?
Not from me.
I think it must be from Reggie.
Why don't we table that?
Okay. Yeah, it's getting late. Treasurer's report. I need to make some motions, and I also finally have the numbers. I went to the bank today and got the forms that we need to do, and I also got the balances. So as of today, 1/13/2022, our business savings account has $5. That's a membership based number. Our business checking has $592.43. There have not been that many recent transactions, and we are awaiting a large reimbursement check from the city.
Do we
Now-
know what that is? Do we know the amount of that check?
It's a couple thousand, something like that.
It's just shy. If everything goes as was indicated by Miles when I reached out to him about going over and what he said he'd be able to cover, it should be just shy of 3,600.
Okay,
Another update is Konnette is now in possession of the NAC's debit card.
And
I
that
need-
debit card still has Jeff's name on it, so I don't know if we,
I need to get a hold of that, and I talked to the branch manager today about the signer change.
Mhm.
And I need to do 3 motions. I could wrap them up in a single motion, and make a list of the things they need to do. But the chair would like to make a motion to allow the chair and the secretary or recorder to submit a new business account card, an Oregonians credit union authorizing resolution, and then third, add Konnette as a business account signer. Those are 3 different forms. These would supersede our previous documents, so that's what I'm
Say that-
proposing here.
Okay, can you say that again and to make,
The- The chair would like to make a motion to approve the chair and the recorder to submit a new business account card, Oregonians Credit Union authorizing a resolution, and then add Konnette as a business account signer. You got all, I can write this down too if you,
maybe that
I
would
have
be
it, I have it written
maybe-
down, but it's,
I could I'll trade you 1 credit card for that piece of paper.
we're gonna have to do this together and in person anyways.
Yeah,
Is there a
no, okay.
discussion on this? It's relatively minor administrative stuff, but our treasurer left the board some months ago, and the chair is the only approved signer, and we need to fix that. Is there a second on the motion?
I'm sorry, again, allow a new business account
Card,
card. And
Or-
that's the credit or the debit card?
no, that's literally who owns this account, what's your tax ID number, and who are your signers kind of deal.
Identifying the NAC.
Mhm.
Okay, and then the second one is credit.
Oregonians Credit Union authorizing resolution. It's basically a document where we fill in the blanks with our names, the name of the organization, and authorizing the account to exist. We have to do a new one, even though we signed one 2 years ago or whenever we did it.
Okay,
And
And
then
then-
adding Konnette as a business account signer. Doing all of these 3 things will remove Annie from the account.
okay.
And we'll have to
I'll
do that in
second that
person.
motion.
Discussion.
Thanks
The
for
only
working
thing
on
is,
this,
Konnette,
Adam.
we have to do this in person. At the
Yes, I
bank.
think I remember doing this before.
Okay, all in favor of the motion, please say aye or raise hand.
I,
Aye.
That's a unanimous. I see everybody voted, so we don't need to take the noes. City updates. Elena, would you like to display and share what's going on?
Yeah, I don't have anything to like put up on the Zoom, but the first update is the utility billing online payment updates. So the city's utility billing online payments is transitioning to a new system for our customers. Utility customers for services like water, sewer, and stormwater are currently enrolled in autopay or online payments will be required to resubmit saved payment methods beginning in January. So the current autopay setups will no longer work after January 26th, and existing autopay and online customers on or after the state will need to visit the Beaverton website, which I will send in the chat, to log in to the new system and resubmit saved payment information and avoid late fees. Oh, and for anyone just listening in that doesn't have access to the chat, it's www.beavertonoregon.gov/billing. And then be on the lookout for communication from the city with instructions for re-enrolling in autopay and saving your preferred payment choice. This is a legitimate request and must be completed to prevent disruption to your account. And if you're not already on autopay, the city offers online bill pay for simple, quick payments and automatic payments for your due date. Learn more and sign up at the same website. And then the second thing is winter weather is here. Stay safe this winter by preparing now for extreme weather, travel, power outages, and outdoor safety and more. Before a storm, be aware of storm watches, advisories, and warnings. Stay tuned to weather reports and download a weather application for alerts. And there's a website, which is www.publicalerts.org to sign up for alerts in your region. Gather supplies like food, water, medications, pet supplies, flashlights, and batteries. Get your shopping done in advance. Dress warm when spending time outdoors and layer for unpredictable weather conditions. If you're traveling, check local weather, road conditions, and closures. Check in on neighbors and ask a neighbor or friend to check in on you. And then lastly, save the date. Mayor Beatty hosts 2022 State of the City. The city of Beaverton is excited to invite community members to tune in for Mayor Beatty's annual State of the City address, which is going to be on Tuesday, March 29th at 12 p.m. She's going to share Beaverton's recent accomplishments and highlights, and will share the city's upcoming priorities. This year's in-person event will also be recorded for community members, and you can stay tuned for details at beavertonoregon.gov/SOTC. I think that stands for State of the City. And then I can send all the links as well.
Elena, you mentioned that the State of the City is virtual, but also that it's in person. Did I hear that wrong?
So it looks like it is in person, but it's also going to be recorded for the community. And
Okay, so is it like registration, limited number? I know the end of March is a long ways away, so.
right. I'm not 100% sure. I think it looks like the website right now says that it's virtual, so I'm not really sure why. Oh, okay, so it is at the Patricia Research Center of the Arts, but I'm not 100% sure if it's like open in person to the community, but I think you could stream in live.
Do we have any other questions for Elena and the city on things? I just have one question. Do you think that we should do the 15-minute appointment with the mayor on this fireworks issue? Are our ideas fully formed enough that that is worth doing? And can we do a 2-in-1? Do you know if she does that, where like not just one-on-one?
If she meets two people,
Yeah.
I would have to ask about that, but I can ask around and I'll make sure Miles gets back to you on that.
Okay. I don't think we need to do a motion on that, but I think we work out the letter, send it, and then talk through the spirit of it with the mayor and hope for the best.
Thank you, Elena.
That said, we're near the end of the meeting, and is there anything else last minute before we adjourn?
I
Konnette?
needed a, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, I needed to request a 45, up to $45 for snacks for the Tualatin Park event for volunteers.
We have a motion for a $45 allowance. Reggie, are you raising your hand a second?
Oh, I just had a thing for round robin after Konnette.
Okay, is there a second on Konnette's motion for the Tualatin Park refreshments?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a second from Juanita. Any further discussion? In favor, please say aye or raise a hand.
Aye.
Reggie, how do you vote?
Oh, aye.
Okay, that's a unanimous passage. Save your receipts and I will reimburse you with the next checkbook when the event's over. Okay, Reggie, did you have something?
Oh yeah, so just for spring event planning, and we can always table this discussion, but I just wanted to open the floor to if anyone had any ideas in follow-up to our December meeting discussion about what we might have in the springtime as far as event programming. We can talk more later or next time. It's just with each month we get a little bit closer, so our outreach channels they decrease over time, but we can still have stuff. So does anyone have any things that they're feeling passionate about for the springtime?
You know, redoing an event that we've done in the past, that shredding event was well loved, and that may be just what we need to get some more folks to help us out.
That'd be cool.
And it doesn't
I
take
had-
that many people.
Well, but we get access to the people to
Yeah, I
maybe
mean,
join
to
the
run
NAC.
it doesn't take, yeah.
I
Juanita,
agree to that. I agree with that.
we could even pair it with a dumpster event, I think, without too much trouble.
Sounds good.
But we
Konnette,
can talk.
is this something that you would be willing to be the lead on?
Yes, a little later than spring would be fine.
Well,
When you say
we're
spring,
flexible.
do you mean like May or do you mean like March?
May would be better than March. Unless somebody else would like to take it on.
And I believe we had the school
Bunny?
district restricting events on their property. Do we think that
Yeah,
would
but
still
we
happen?
used Nexus parking
Oh, the
lot.
church.
hmm And yes, I do think that would still happen. They just have so much going on right now.
Any other discussion on Reggie's item?
I think that's a great idea, Konnette. Should we vote on like making this more set in stone now, or talk more about it next month? What would you prefer?
Can we talk about it next time? And
Yeah, maybe
Well-
talk to the church about it tentatively, just to see if it's even going to be possible, and then let's do it next time.
Perfect.
All right. I would like to adjourn the meeting. And
Sounds good.
is there a second on that?